This week, we're going to do a short lecture on the stages of relationships. And those of you that were on the conference call with me know that there are four types of relationships that we are engaged in: those with our friends, those with our family, romantic relationships, and relationships that we create at work. And so I'd like to talk about the stages of relationship. But before I begin, there's two things that I want you to do. First thing is I want you to pick a person that you are in a relationship with that you feel like it could be better. Let me say this. It doesn't mean that the relationship's bad. It just means that you'd like to improve it. Now, it could be a relationship that's bad, but I want you to think of one that you'd like to improve. And then really quick, I'd like you to jot down, so pause the video after I say this. I'd like you to jot down 10 things that you argue about. Some of you may say there's not 10 things, and that's fine. But I want you to write down what are most of your arguments. And when you're done, go ahead and hit play and watch the rest of the video. I wanted you to do that because as I move through the stages of relationship, I want you to actually start to think about where are you in your relationship, which stage, and then when we get to the last stage, which I actually don't have on this slide, which is adjourning, I want you to think about how can you turn those arguments around and use that thought process for the next few weeks as we talk about solving conflict. So there's 5 stages in relationship development according to Tuckman: forming, storming, norming, performing, and the one that is not on here is adjourning. So we're going to go through all of these, but before we do, I want to tell you guys that this is the model that is often used in businesses. So it's for small groups in the formation of teams. But I actually find that it's better than the models that are used to explain interpersonal relationship stages of development, because I think those actually kind of look more at the exit points. And so Levenger talks about the stages of relationship, which are very similar to Knapp's model of relationship development. But you notice for each of these phases, it says contact, exit, involvement, exit, intimacy, exit. And then you get to deterioration, and then you have repair or dissolution or exit. And so I tend to focus more on Tuckman's model because I believe that every relationship can be repaired if we take the time to actually do that. Now, I know that we move through relationships, and so one of the things that I often say is that relationship development actually goes in cycles. The first cycle or the first stage is forming or contact. And so for this one, I'd like you to think of a romantic relationship. And I want you to think about, how do you form a romantic relationship? How do we choose who we want to have a relationship with? And then how do we build the relationship to get to know them a little bit better? That's stage 1. And so if you look at the research, Duck's relationship filtering theory, he says that we actually pick people based on 3 things: distance, so how close are they to us; perception, what do we think of them; how do we value them; what's their level of intellect, if that's important to us; and then physical appearance. In regards to physical appearance, there's research that suggests that you actually will choose a romantic partner that is an equal level of attractiveness to you. But level of attractiveness is actually determined based on yourself and your own perception of yourself. So if you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 as an 8, for instance, according to the research, you will end up with someone long term that you consider to be an 8. If on the flip side you rank yourself as a 2, according to the research, you will long term end up with someone that you consider to be a 2. So, love relationships. There are some tips, right? Okay, tip number 1: build relationships one at a time. It's kind of a no brainer. Be genuine. Don't judge. Accept people for who they are. Oftentimes, I frequently say that you will become best friends, have a great love relationship with people that maybe you didn't like at first. And if you're feeling like you want to grow your circle, you want to meet new people, you want to increase your friend base, or you want to date someone new, don't be afraid to invite people to do things. It's often through activities that we make connections. Second stage is storming. Another word for it is actually involvement. And I know that sounds weird, but storming and involvement are actually the same thing. Because storming is mini tests to assert your individuality. It's being able to say, no, I don't want to do that, or no, I don't like that, or no, I don't agree with you, or you're talking about politics and you have a different opinion than somebody else. And so early on in the relationship, you have to be able to stand up for yourself, to state what you like, what you don't like. And how do you maintain your relationship? How do you maintain your individuality while growing a relationship? And this is a big question because it's important to recognize that you have to be who you are. You have to maintain who you are. And even though you may be growing in a relationship, it's important that you actually still are your own person. So that means that you have to be able to stand up for yourself, and not necessarily in a negative way, but you have to be able to communicate openly and honestly. You have to establish a culture of trust where you'll listen to the other person's perspectives. And then not only listen, but as tip number 3 says, is try to understand the other person's perspective. And remain loyal, meaning treat the other person the way you want to be treated. The third stage of relationship development is norming or intensifying. And I ask you right now in your own mind to think of what does a healthy relationship look like? And then answer this question for yourself. When is a person too dependent? So a healthy relationship actually is determined by a level of maturity. So this is from your Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it says that there are 3 different types of behaviors that you will have in a relationship. You will either be dependent, where you need the other person to help you to make decisions, to determine what to do. You need someone else to be for you. The next category is independent, and that's where you think just of yourself and what do you want and what does the impact have on you. The last type of relationship that you can enter into is an interdependent, and that's where you are you and the other person is them, but there's always that acknowledgement, that recognition, that ability to understand that someone else is there. And when you make decisions, you make those decisions while thinking of or interacting with them. The next stage of relationship development is performing. And it really comes down to this. How do you teach people how to treat you? Because in the performing stage, you are going to set the stage. You are going to learn how to. You are going to start to treat each other in a love relationship as a couple. You're going to establish rules on what is okay and what is not okay. You're going to see each other from the perspective of how does that build them up? How does that make them a better person? But in order to do that, you have to express your true feelings. And you have to watch your tone and pitch. So I used the example in one of the previous videos, I'm not mad, right? Watch your tone and pitch and choose your words carefully. Go back to the poem that I say in class, sticks and stones can break your bones, but words will friggin' kill you. Make sure when you say things, it's not to hurt them, but to express your true feelings. And really, you have to work at not trying to always be right, but to understand the other person's point of view. But no matter what relationship you get to, no matter what relationship, how great it is, you're always going to get to the adjournment phase or the deterioration phase. And you have that decision to make. Do I stay or do I leave? Do I fix this or do I run? The early predictors of dissolution is age. So the younger you are when you get in a long-term relationship, the shorter the relationships actually last. Also, another predictor is education. So those people that have a higher degree, have gone to school longer, they generally have more successful relationships than those who have less of an education. And last is physical attraction. Now, physical attraction changes as you get older, so it may not necessarily be looks. It may actually be the treatment that you have and how you interact with one another and how you respect one another. A healthy relationship has a lot of things. It has someone who is fair and equal. It makes you feel not threatened. There's an element of respect. There's trust and support, honesty. If and when you have children, there's responsible parenting. There's shared responsibility. It's not his or hers or mine or yours. And there's an economic partnership, not the separation. And how do you build a healthy relationship?